Hey, we are live. It's X Garage once again with our new live format. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day and enjoying your quarantine self. Unless you're one of those who are not quarantined, then good for you. We are all very happy for you.
Are you talking to us, Jake, or the audience?
So today,
were you talking to us, Jake, or
I'm
the
talking
viewers?
to you.
Said, yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought so.
I know you were going. I know you were going on your run earlier today and breaking quarantine, man.
Yeah,
Don't you know they're gonna send a drone? They're gonna send a drone and watch you. Big Brother knows, man.
Well, I hope they didn't send the drone because I'm not gonna say what went on that run, but I hope there was no drones.
Cool. Oh, I think. Hey, Turner, how's it going? We already got comments started.
Good.
Cool. Yeah. So today, before we get started, I wanted to mention that we do have our Patreon account set up so that if anybody does want to support us in our endeavors, you are able to do so over there. And then we will be giving extra content over there as well. So I'm going to put the, what do you call it? You know, that linky thing in the description.
Yeah.
Or in the comments here down below. So if anybody wants to take.
Maybe down there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that being said, Ethan, what I wanted to do today, O'Reilly rather, Ethan O'Reilly.
O'Reilly.
So Ethan and I, we go way back. We go way back to Moody in Chicago, and I found out that Ethan was an MK, as they say.
Well, Turner and I go back to Moody Spokane. And we weren't there at the same time, though. We weren't there at the same time, but we held the base, whatever that means. Right. Anyway, go back to your comment. So there's a lot of Moody guys. Well, my point is, there's a lot of Moody guys here, and I don't mean that.
A lot of Moody guys. I have a feeling that we will need to get Turner on here someday. Yeah. So Ethan, I found out was an MK, and that means missionary kid, right? Am I getting that right? Is that how you pronounce it, Ethan?
Missionary kid. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Check my English. So basically, Ethan grew up in the jungle. Hence the title of this is Jungle Religion from Ecuador. And I really wanted to hear. I thought I'd have Ethan share with you kind of what the religion was like of the Kofan, right? That's the name of the tribe down there.
Yep.
Kofan. And you still speak Kofan, don't you?
Yep, I still speak Kofan. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you say like hello or something like that? Give us a greeting in Kofan.
Kasete migaki. Yani sice Ethan Borman. Yani vani hiken se ke kahe.
Da.
Oh my gosh. It's been
that was really good.
That
was awesome. I love it.
I've actually heard you speak in that. Ethan is our multilingual guy here. I mean, he speaks some other languages too. I guess he more writes and reads in those languages. But Ethan
reads very slowly, but precisely.
Yeah. Yeah. Ethan is our what's that? I'm forgetting my vocabulary. You speak lots of languages, Ethan.
Yeah, like local linguist.
Yeah. Oh shoot, it's gonna kill me. There's a really cool word for multilingual. Polyglot. Oh, yeah. There we go. Polyglot. Ethan, you're a polyglot.
Oh, okay, polyglot.
Yeah, that's a good old source of the biblical text. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. Anyway, Ethan, go ahead and tell us a little bit what do we need to know? Because your grandfather was the first one to go down there as a missionary to the Kofan, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Jimmy.
Cool. Yeah. No, I can hear you. Yeah. So.
Cool.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. So yeah, my grandparents first went down there during the 50s. Around the time, I don't know if you guys know much about the 5 missionaries that died down in Ecuador back in the 50s. So my grandparents went down just about the same time as they were all down there. And they ended up down there, and they went down with Wycliffe Bible Translators, or SIL, and they didn't have a tribe when they first arrived in Ecuador because they were a little bit late to the show, and actually were initially assigned to the Auca, later Waorani people. So actually the people that killed the 5 missionaries. So they were actually assigned to them for a little small period of time. And then a missionary couple left because the missionary couple, the wife was having a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
And so they left and actually said, hey, we have these people, the Kofan, this is all we have on information about them. Would you go and take these people? And my grandparents said, okay, we'll do it. They were actually, my grandpa was involved in the rescue crew going out to the recover the bodies of the 5 missionaries. And so I do have some history with that as well. They were actually pretty good friends with the 5 missionaries that were killed out in the Ecuadorian jungle as well. Anyways, all that as a preamble. My grandparents made contact with the Kofan people and basically settled out in the middle of the rainforest in Ecuador with the Kofan people. Basically, the only way into the village at that time was by float plane. And so, getting to the religion. So when they first got there, the people were primarily, I guess you could say, sort of a form of animism, sort of the like hyper spirituality, where there's a spirit in everything. They practiced, what you call it? I mean, they had witch doctors, the witch doctors that were sort of, the chief was a witch doctor, and they would send curses on people. They would do healings. They would do all sort of different things along that line. They were very superstitious. They also had a very extensive knowledge of herbal medicine. They actually have the largest collection of herbal remedies from the jungle out of any tribe in the world. And I guess originally they were actually quite a large civilization in the jungles, which is actually ruins of their previous civilization before the Spanish came in and wiped them out, either directly or indirectly through disease. And so they had this very animistic religion, a lot of like blowing on of smoke. In a way, it's interesting how universal a religion, sort of tribal animism is, where there's a sense of interacting with animals, and how there's the ability to spiritually control animals and bring them in for hunting. There's spiritual projection, where they can project their spirit into an animal to spy or use that animal to harm other people. I know this all sounds really weird. I know this is probably going to be the weird. But like living in the tribe, experiencing this, talking with the people, and getting their perspective about the superstitions they had, and their idea of the Aya, which is the ghost. They were very, very fearful of the Aya, which is the ghost, and they would avoid graveyards because of it. They believed that the Aya would go up and down the river, making a high-pitched whistling sound. And oddly enough, actually, they called them the little people, and they were small, glowing white beings. Oddly enough, my uncle supposedly actually witnessed one of them, which is kind of strange. And actually going down the river. away from the tribe. Yeah, a lot of other resources if you guys want to read up on tribal animism in South America, you can read a book called Christ Witch Doctor, which gives an incredible story about a witch doctor coming to Christ. A true story. I'll give you a lot more information about it. But yeah, is that enough to work off of, or?
Now, I'm curious. Do they have any rituals that we should be aware of? Were there any ceremonies, whether it's weddings or source material for the religion, or is it mostly just word of mouth?
Yeah. So they're obviously a very what's the word? A completely oral tradition culture. So everything, all their legends were passed down by word of mouth, sitting around telling stories. My grandpa actually recorded all of their legends in a book that I could actually get my hands on. It's interesting. A lot of their legends they've got.
I would love that.
They actually have they actually have a creation story, a flood story. Then they also have a bunch of other really, really interesting stories. About things in spiritualism, like stories of how the fish ended up in the river, sort of stuff. And a lot of these legends actually have a lot of similarities with a lot of other tribes around them have similar legends. As far as rituals, they have a ritual where they drink a drug called yahe. And this is where our atheist friends might be like, "Oh, it's just hallucinating." So it is actually a hallucinogenic drug that they will take, which they use to commune with the spirits and gain knowledge. So they will, through the hallucinogenic drug, they will commune with the spirits, and they'll actually go to a place, and they'll actually describe the place as arising up above into this place where they're looking down on all the spirit people. And then they'll talk with the spirit people and learn about different things, like different chants and like that. They also they do chants as well, where they will perform healing through repetitious chants and blowing on a smoke. So they'll have like a pipe or something like that, or waving a frond, like a palm frond. To do healings, which is kind of ironic that they have the biggest herbal medicine in the system in the world, and then that they'd also turn to sort of this spiritualistic healing that the witch doctors would do. Wow. Yeah.
So Jake, did you have a list of questions already prepared to ask Ethan on this?
No, I didn't. Go ahead.
Okay. So my thought is, I heard you. There's a lot of particular points you brought up just with their way of life and beliefs and interactions with fallen angelic beings, and fear, all these different things and fear of death, clearly with that graveyard mention. How did you? Was the gospel? From what I understood, the gospel did make some good shifts down in that area. Is that correct? What were some of the key ways that the gospel was able to move into their worldview and their way of seeing life with this demonic oppression? What were some where the gospel, where you guys were able to relate that truth into their world?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, they actually believed in a supreme being, a spirit that was greater than all the other spirits, and they, in a way, talking to people, like they sort of avoided the spirit because they were like, the spirit is so powerful and so much greater than all the other spirits. And so in a way, they actually had a knowledge of that there was a God. And they actually talk about this God in their legends as being the creator, as being the God who told them that they needed to have peace with the other tribes. And at the same time, there was a lot of introduction of, or a background of sun worship, which they probably got from the Incan tribes, the Incan Empire, which is also in the area, which they had periodic contact with as well. So like when we first got to the village, I guess there was a sense of when my and we need to be careful with this because there's a lot of ideas out there sort of encroaching in on Christianity about claiming territory and that sort of thought process. And I don't think this really has anything to do with claiming territory as more of just the Spirit of God entering into a situation. But a lot of the witch doctors did lose their power, a lot of their powers when my grandparents entered into the village. And so there was that sense of things. Even if you read the story of the Christ witch doctor, you see this this loss of power because of Christianity entering into the tribe. Yeah. Wow. If that answers your question.
Yeah. It seems that even the presence of believers in the community began to affect the power and the work of the fallen entities and their import on those people's lives, which is pretty cool. You do see that in Scripture, that we are. This is just an example within just within the context of marriage is a believer married to an unbeliever. There's going to be a grace to that unbeliever's life. Just that presence there, and that the Holy Spirit is with them, and even more so, God's providence over that relationship. And I think that she says something about ministry as the gospel goes out, that Christ is has all rule and authority as the Great Commission goes, and then it concludes with, "I will be with you all till the end of the age." So it's that reminder that as we go out with the gospel, it's not just us, but it's Christ bringing about His purposes to redeem His people. So that excites me to hear that testimony, man. That's really cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. No, and just as a heads up, if anybody does have any questions for Ethan while we do these, we'll definitely entertain those questions. So feel free to fire away. One question I had is, what did they see as the goal of their particular belief system? Did they see it as salvific, or was it more focused on the here and now?
Yeah, and it seems to be much more of a here and now sort of religion, much more centered around what's happening right now. And your ancestors sort of became ghosts that were haunting these grave sites, and you wanted to avoid those ghosts because those ghosts would speak to you. So there, in a way, there was a sense of afterlife, but the afterlife was more of this becoming a ghost, I suppose. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so Turner's writing some sort of Greek word in the comments, and I can't read that, Turner. So
Turner, I can't see the comments.
it looks like the first letter is like a trident. The next letter is an A, and then a P looking one, and then a U with the line. Oh gosh, this is terrible.
Whatever. Hey, Turner, just write it out. in the other tongue, the tongue of Ethan O'Henry.
It would be on the Facebook if you actually go to the page, and you can actually see the comments. You should be able to see the comments from.
Yeah, there should be private chat live comments on the side.
I think it would be on your side too.
Well, I'm looking. Let's see, live comment.
Yeah, you want live comments.
I just got to click. I just got to one little mouse click, guys.
The Greek word for witchcraft. All right.
Pharmakia.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, yeah. That sounds.
So I guess my follow-up question was: do they have any much of a sense of hamartiology, or like what is their thought on sin? Like, do they have a doctrine of sin?
That is a good question. Obviously, they had.
Do you think it would be more of a karma kind of?
In a sense, but it was in a sense, but it's more like upsetting a spirit. so where do you go with that? The sense of sin. I mean, they have a word where they say ega cinco, which is like bad act, I guess it would be. So they sort of have a word for doing bad things, and they obviously had a very much of like they got married, and they actually had wedding ceremonies where people would actually get married and stay married as a couple. Actually, their divorce rate was quite small before my grandparents got there, and then the oil companies came in and brought everything that goes with that. So as far as their idea of sin, I don't know. There was a lot of superstitions, so like things that you shouldn't do. So there was like the idea of you shouldn't go down and take a bath directly after having a child because an anaconda will come and eat your child.
Yeah, standard.
Yeah.
I've had that. That's in one of my books.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, superstitions like that. And I think a lot of that sort of like comes out of this idea of like you don't do certain things. So like their idea of right and wrong, obviously they weren't a violent tribe, so they weren't killing each other, like the Waorani people or anything like that. So, so as far as that goes, like as far as morality goes, like they seemed fairly moral in a sort of a sense, but then when they have this ultra spirituality, I don't know.
Yeah, it seemed like their big thing that they were wrestling with spiritually and physically as well as the two can't disconnect, is that it seemed like a real fear driven life. Even that idea of getting in the water and then having to worry about your child being killed. The idea of not going this place or to the graveyard, or a fear of death, of controlling their way of life, which kind of ties back to what you're saying with the which Turner knows the pharmakia is the idea of just the spiritual aspect of connecting with these spirits through these drugs and through other means. They were being controlled, and then to see that essentially, if from what I'm hearing, it seems like it was a very oppressed people, even though they had that moral that idea to not, they wanted to preserve their own.
Yeah, they were nice people. Yeah, and yeah, and that's what you'll see with any sort of demonic driven religion anywhere in the world. There is a very, very they're all based on fear, and you find that demonic activity thrives in fear saturated atmospheres. At least in my experience, growing up in that atmosphere. I mean, my parents would talk about me waking up in the middle of the night and not waking up, just waking up screaming or yelling or pointing at objects in the room that weren't there. And when they'd ask me what was wrong, sort of thing. And then they'd find out the next day that night was the night that they had done their hallucinogenic drug, communing with the spirits thing. And so like my life as a child was, I felt the effects of the people doing their rituals in the tribe. It affected me in my sleep, especially. I had night terrors, and then I'd wake up, and then that day they'd be like, my parents would find out, oh, that night was the night that they had done their rituals, and that's why it affected me in that way. And really, I felt a lot of a spiritual oppression growing up in the tribe, and even coming out of the tribe for many years until being saved much later. when I was like 12 years old. Yeah. And that's a whole other thing. That's my testimony. But
no, we got it. Yeah, that's a topic in itself. The effects of these in our lives, even as believers, being in these circumstances, has import on our sanctification, our growth, and our connection with people. I do want to make a little caveat. I realize now that I can see the comment thread that Turner, it's not the Turner I thought this Turner was. Now I know who this Turner is, and so hello, Turner. He did not go to Moody Spokane. And what's funny is Turner knows Greek, it seems, and so does my other Turner. So that's what confused me. And but that's
how's it going, other Turner? Now that
we yeah.
That's really funny.
Thank you, Turner, for not calling me out on my error. I had to correct myself. Yeah. Anyway, going back. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that story. I think it's amazing that there's been generations of missionaries stemming from your grandfather. So, what a gift and a blessing that's part of your heritage. So I'm blessed by just knowing that and being able to be your friend. So, yeah, that's so cool that it's that generational. I don't have too much more to say on that. I don't think that. I think that it's apparent how Christ has an effect on a worldview like that.
Yeah. No, and really the turning point in the tribe.
Demonic forces.
Yeah. Sorry to talk over the top of you,
but no, it's good.
Yeah, talk over. You say the turning point in the tribe.
Yeah, so the turning point in the tribe, my grandpa actually records it, is they were making recordings of the scripture as they were translating the Bible. So my grandparents translated the scriptures into this tribal language. And they were making recordings, and then the people would come and they would listen to the recordings because they couldn't read at the outset. And
your grandfather was one of the ones that helped develop the romanization of the language.
Yeah, completely developed the whole alphabet of the language. Wrote the dictionary, translated the scriptures. Incredible man. Anyways, one day the chief of the tribe actually came to my grandparents' house while they were listening, and they sat down and he listened, and then he stood up and he said, "This is good," and then he walked out. And that's when there was a big resurgence of believers coming to Christ in the tribe.
Was there a video made on that or something? Because I've heard that story before.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, I think I recently, there must have been a video.
Wycliffe. There was when I was at Moody, we watched a missionary kind of overview of that whole thing, from the first families that came to the development of where the gospel kind of ended at. And so a lot of what you're saying is very familiar. So it's really cool to hear it from the first hand.
And Kayla adds, she says, I may have missed it. Was there an outside source that the tribe's belief system came from before your grandparents arrived? Do you think that's referring to maybe some influences from the Incas?
Yeah, and I think that was the Chiga, which is now the word they use for God. Chiga, which they also use the word Kwehe, meaning sun. And so there was some worship of the sun god. And so that would probably be Incan influence. But really, the Incans were almost in a way almost monotheist in a way, of worshiping the sun. I think there was some moon worship as well, but it was mostly worship of the sun. That's why you have so many astral structures sort of relating to the stars and things like that in Ecuador. And even the Catholic Church has sort of done some syncretism with that religion. There is some evidence that there may have been some Jesuit missionary early contact with the Kofan people, but it's not for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, and kind of switching gears here, we have another thing. Unless you guys have one more thing to go on to. Oh, Kayla adds, interesting. It's always so crazy how many secluded belief systems share the same general idea as the more widely known ones. I think that's very true.
My time in Congo definitely confirmed that.
Yeah.
Talking about those to people in Congo, which is all the way over in Africa, and they were like, these are the same spiritual beliefs like that are in a lot of the tribes around this area as well. So yeah,
that's crazy.
Thanks for sharing that.
And just to reiterate, I said this at the beginning, but we did start a Patreon account. I did put the link in the comment section if any of you do want to support what we're doing to help us get to the next level. It'd be very much appreciated.
Are we playing a video game?
Are we playing a video game?
A video game? You said to the next level?
Yeah, to the next level. Yes.
Come on. I'm just teasing. Sorry.
I do want to
get that XP.
Yes. To have a greater impact through this medium. Yes. I know what you meant.
You're a jerk, Keith.
Yeah, I like to joke, but when I'm serious all the time, it's hard for anyone to know when I joke.
Yeah,
that's what they say.
Well, we all know you're a funny guy. So what I wanted to go to next, so I've been having fun making TikTok videos, as many
really?
of you know.
No one noticed this week.
Yeah, no one noticed.
Those are really good. I like them.
Yeah, no, they're pithy.
Appreciate it. I've been experimenting on. Thank you. Yeah. Well, the trick is you have to, whatever you want to say, you have to say under a minute. So you gotta really put it together. But it's got a fun way to make videos and edit them and stuff like that.
Theo bites.
I'm gonna go ahead and share a video. Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and share a video that I made this last. Actually, it was probably this morning. I'm losing track of time, as I'm sure many people are during this. So I'm sharing my screen, and then after we watch this video, I want to take a look at a particular comment here, as it is an interesting critique, I think, of the methodology that I'm utilizing to discuss knowledge. Can all of you see that?
Can we hear it? That's the real deal. I can see it. Yeah, I can't hear it.
I see your lips moving. Are we supposed to lip read?
Yeah, I don't know if you maybe I just have to take your earphones out and like play it through your audio of your. I think that might work.
Ooh, yes. Good call. Bear with us in this moment of technical difficulty.
Yeah. So Heath, how's your week been?
Oh, yeah, it's been wonderful. Thanks for asking. Didn't do anything much. How about you?
Well, it's been pretty good. Still been going to work, working.
Good. Want to talk about Jake while he doesn't have his earplugs in?
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So,
no.
Did you hear that Jacob's becoming an atheist? Yeah.
Yep. He's well on his way with these videos.
Yeah, man.
He's forsaken the holy writ and gone the way of what?
What's going on here?
We're talking about you. Yeah.
You.
I'm not becoming an atheist.
Yeah.
Let's try this one more time.
All right.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Are you ready for this? All right. All right. Tell me if you hear this. Testing.
When a Christian then tries to defend logic.
You hear that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just for kicks and giggles, if you guys want to actually go and watch the video, there it is in the comments. I'm rewinding. So here we go.
Okay, let me make this short and simple. When an atheist tries to defend the use of logic, he is invoking circular reasoning for any reason you give. To use reason will invariably be circular. When a Christian then tries to defend logic, we are able to go to special revelation using an ultimate starting point. What we would say is that for knowledge to be possible, you have to have an ultimate starting point that is objective and transcendent. That is the Bible. Polytheistic worldviews cannot account for this because there is no ultimate starting point. Atheism can't account for this because there is no ultimate starting point. All you are left with is Abrahamic religions, really, where God is intentionally revelational. The question then is, which one is consistent? And only in the Christian worldview is there a consistent revelation, plus the God-man coming down and validating his claims.
Cool.
Oh yeah, John Piper.
Were you guys able to hear that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's
John
Piper.
Piper.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, he's coming in.
Cool.
He's in the
So-
waiting room right now. Piper's
Yeah.
joining us.
Yeah.
John Piper.
So I know a lot of people aren't familiar with that kind of methodology in terms of communicating the truth, but it's widely known as presuppositional apologetics. Obviously, there are some people that didn't like it, so I'm just gonna. There we go. Now it's a
How about
1-to-1.
How about that, Jake?
Van Til.
Van Til. I just liked my own video.
Yeah.
Let's see. So
Or maybe I should
there's a
just
guy.
turn,
that said
maybe I
literally
should just turn to Romans 1 and
keeps
say
on going.
Romans 1, Paul.
Yeah.
Presuppositional.
Yep.
Or
So
Genesis 1.
this
Genesis
guy took the
1,
time to write
Moses.
paragraphs. Which right?
1-1,
Yeah.
Genesis. That's Moses. Presuppositional.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So he what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through this. I have some of my own thoughts, but I think Heath does a really good job of kind of sifting through some of this. So I'm going to read it out and then we'll converse about it. But I'll let you guys be the exactly, Turner. So let's go here. I'm going to read it out loud and then we'll respond. So when an atheist tries to defend the use of logic, he's invoking circular reasoning. He's quoting me. No, comma. He's using axiomatic thinking. The laws of logic are good axioms because they are not provable and yet are easily directly demonstrable, like 1 + 1 = 2. You cannot prove this to be the case as a universal. You must accept it by axiom, and yet it is easy to directly demonstrate.
Isn't he just right there shutting down his ability to even speak meaningfully?
Yes,
by even claiming an
Yeah.
action. He's saying essentially that there is no objective grounding for what I'm saying. It's just thinking axiomatically, and that in itself, you're on this Kantian worldview where you really can't know anything for sure.
So let me use language. Yeah.
It's a play on words.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Jake. Go, Jake.
I'm saying circular reasoning. He's saying axiom. I mean, tomato.
Potato, tomato.
Yeah. his worldview isn't able to. So here's the thing: is what are the preconditions for the thing that we're talking about? So
Yahweh.
The point is that exactly. The atheistic worldview can't give preconditions for the aspect of reality that we're talking about. That's where the rubber meets the road. But he continues.
Could you explain? Could you explain to me and the viewers what you mean by preconditions? Thank you.
Yep. So for any, when I say preconditions for intelligibility or preconditions for any such thing, that presup life there. Thanks, Turner. So what I mean for preconditions, when I'm talking about intelligibility, I'm saying what needs to be the case for this to be the case. Yes. So if we're to use logic and you presuppose the atheistic worldview, because that's what you have to do. You have to bring it back before your experience and say, is what I'm saying, does that even make sense to begin with my preconceived notions?
Right, within one's own framework.
Right, within your own framework. So if I'm an atheist and the start of the universe is happenstance, the start of life is happenstance, it's completely deterministic because of it's just events compile on events compile on events. It's just one leads to another.
And not only that, not only that, but yeah, like you're saying, on that basis, there is no point in which you can draw meaning out of something that has no intention to begin with. There's no difference. Right and wrong doesn't exist. A tree is no different than grass. These are just, again, these are, well, the fact that I just made that distinction shows that there is the distinction, and thus there is a creator, meaningful creator who has framed existence that's meaningful. So even trying to work off their paradigm using the terms of difference, it falls in on itself.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, Ethan?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I think the whole idea of just the fact that they think they can use language, which I don't know. You study language and the psychology behind language is it's a symbolic word based. Anyways, the whole idea of trying to use something that is based in the thought life of someone, I don't know.
Yeah.
How can we convey ideas absolutely with language when language is so relative anyways, when there's so many different languages all over the world, and different meanings for words and evolution of words. I don't know.
I mean, maybe I could explain a little bit better in this format,
I'm not
but what I was trying to get at in that video is that there are only so many kinds of worldviews you can hold to. So people like to think of it as thousands and thousands and thousands of different ways to think about it. I mean, if you take the minuscule parts of a particular worldview, then yeah, sure, there's a worldview for each individual person. Right. But in terms of categorically thinking, you only have, atheism with no God, agnosticism, we don't know, monotheistic theism, polytheism, and some kind of mix of panentheism, right? Yeah. There's variations between those, but my point is that unless you have a God who reveals himself, and that knowledge therefore is revelational, you can't know if your experience is valid.
Right. If there is not an objective source for all meaning, at what point can a subject who is contingent begin to even acquire meaning? Unless that objective being has revealed himself to some extent.
So at bottom,
so the quest for meaning in itself presupposes, like you're saying, God.
Yep. So when it comes down to it, when we're talking to atheists that demand this kind of reasoning, they have to borrow from a worldview that presupposes that meaning makes sense, which the only worldview you are left with is the Christian worldview. So to even begin to start talking about different kinds of evidences, which is fine, we can talk about the validity of the Christian scriptures and Christ rising from the dead and different kinds of facts and stuff like that. But here's the thing: is that they want there to be such a thing as brute facts, but they don't exist because you're always framing the facts inside the way that you think about reality. So anyway, I'm going on.
Yeah. No. Sorry. Going off of that, I mean, this may be a loaded statement. The more I study atheism, and I've been watching debates, I've been studying been reading some books written by atheists. The more I read, it almost seems like atheists are actually ancestral worshipers. Sorry. Knowing about lots of different religions, but in a way, it's like this idea of like, well, we know the things we know because of our development over time, because of the good decisions, the good genes that our ancestors passed down to us. And it's almost, I'm sorry, it sounds like ancestral worship in a new sort of way, but in a way it's just it's superstitious. And I'm sorry, atheists, but you guys are becoming very superstitious. And falling back into that. Yeah.
And what's fascinating is, Jake even brought up the various worldviews. You got the agnostic, the atheist, and the theist, or you got deism, whatever. But the thing is all the others are really starting and qualifying everything by the subject. It's the autonomy of the individual is the definer of what is true, essentially,
So
and based on what you observe, but again, I feel like for the agnostic, for them to, when you presuppose, when you're working from the worldview that we don't know if God's revealed himself, you've already made that assumption, that God hasn't revealed himself in the things that have been made. The psalmist would disagree with that assumption. But then at any point that you begin to add meaning to your life, you're already bounced out of your worldview, because you should be suspended on all things meaningful. Yeah. And for the atheist, it's just the opposite, where it's, if it's a hardcore, true to the term atheism, God does not exist, then at no point thereafter can you have meaning there, because your starting point, like Jake had mentioned, is the origin formation of the universe was unintentional. Therefore, at any point you add intentionality to anything in life, even to comport your life in a certain way, is inconsistent with your worldview.
Yeah.
And so then you see if those are inconsistent, then you're left with you basically are left with falling back onto the God of Scripture, like you mentioned, Jake. So
yeah. Caleb mentioned. So I think this could be a really interesting direction to take this. Hoping that I'm not going onto a tangent, but kind of on this vein, I recently saw a comment that evil comes from religion. I'm sure the commenter meant it differently. I'd have to see the context to really know, but I can't help but take this direction, where Christianity brings morality, defining good and evil. So I guess it kind of does. It's still a comment I'm wrestling with. Thoughts? So at least for me, when you're talking about evil comes from religion, well, I mean, it kind of depends on who is saying it, right, and what their initial starting points are. Because from the Christian perspective, evil is God or his holiness. So I mean, at an ultimate starting point, evil can't exist even in abstract apart from God existing. I don't know. Thoughts?
Right. It would be living in a manner. It would be living in a manner inconsistent with the will of God. That's what evil is. It's living contrary to the Creator's purposes. Yeah. And so it's not an ontological thing. But what's interesting about this statement, when it says evil comes from religion, if the person means evil in terms of ontological evil or a thing, well, that's not even a Christian perspective. Evil is not a thing. God created all things good, and then the way humans appropriate their lives is what is called evil or sin. Now, there are worldviews out there that would actually qualify evil as a substantial thing. And that's the beauty of Christianity, is that actually all things are redeemable because God created them holy and sacred and set apart by his very speaking it forth. God himself is holy. What he creates is holy and good. We pervert that. As Augustine would say, that evil is not a thing, but a deprivation of a thing, a lessening of one's being. Yeah. But I don't like to go that way because it speaks of sin in terms of quality. Again, going back to substantial terms, like the quality of the tree is not in full bloom right now. But Scripture is clear that evil is the way in which we live in relation to God. That at least is a very clear biblical statement. And so I hope that's helpful on this.
And so, sometimes people say stuff like that. They're talking about how the only evil things that come in this world are because of religion. But to even begin to talk on those terms, to say religion does evil things or God does evil things, is to presuppose that there is some kind of objective morality behind it. So you're already, again, assuming the thing that you're trying to disprove by comporting that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the other thing it could be is the other point. So not just ontologically, but then if evil comes from religion, it could be just a really poor phrasing for, or the way in which this happens a lot too, in terms of the poor phrasing of I mean, depending on if it was in a chat or something or a post, but the idea that it comes from religion, i.e., because religions think of evil, but there is no true evil out there, right? It's just a conception of which religions have created in order to deal with things that just don't seem right. But then you go into that. But then you go into that, then you got morality as a subjective construct, which is absolutely ridiculous. Murder is always wrong, stealing is always wrong, etc.
Why? Is it because it hurts people, sort of thing? And you go, well, is your morality intuitive? Like, are you just basing your morality off of intuition? Because if you do that, then one person's intuition might be different than another person's intuition. And
I like what Turner put. He put evil by what standard?
Yeah, exactly.
Just like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Let's go on with this, because he says some interesting things here. So when insert a religious believer here tries to defend logic, or I said atheist, correct that, for since your argument works for every single religion that exists within a universe creating God, yours is not special. Part of the issue I have with this is that it is different, because again, if we narrow this down to only the religions that provide any sort of revelational epistemology, which is the standard that I'm speaking to, there are very few religions that say God actually speaks and has an authority in reality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say Abrahamic religions tend to be the extent of that. I'm not aware of any others, and I'm including all of them in that. Like I'm saying, Judaism, Mormonism, Islam, or whatever. But that only one of them, i.e. Christianity, is the one that is able to substantiate that claim by its consistency and by its expression in the person of Jesus Christ coming down to earth.
Yeah, I was going to say the big point there is that when you then once you've kind of nailed down the Abrahamic religions, or this those who attempt or are actually interpreting Scripture rightly, the God of Scripture, when you get down to those, it then becomes, when you get to Islam or Mormonism or whatever it is, their systems in themselves will break down. And so that's where that's just another step in this little equation here. That does make sense. You do have a starting point. You do have a starting point, but your God and your conception of this God itself breaks down.
Yep.
I don't know. Go ahead. If you have a critique to that, please do it.
Yeah, I think that Mormonism and Islam and so forth are more realistic than atheism, but they do fall apart at the end. So no, it's not the same thing at all. Anyway, Ethan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's interesting because this is actually a common argument that people use against the Pascal's wager. Is the fact that if there's so many gods, then that makes your wager unstable, because which god do I turn to? Now the wager has been multiplied or whatever, and it's now heavier on one side than the other, because if I choose the wrong god to follow, then how do I end up in heaven anyways? Which I feel like is a unfair assessment of Pascal's wager in its original intention, because original intention was talking specifically about Christianity. But
that's a good point.
But that's I guess that's what I have to add to it.
Yeah,
that's really
cool. Good. Let's see. And then I said, we are able to go to special revelation, he said, which you cannot account for without using logic. So you cannot use logic prior to go into this, meaning you cannot go to it.
He's forgetting that our faith is consistent with logic. Anyway, go ahead. What was your?
We're talking preconditions. What makes logic a viable option? Because he's just saying logic is because logic is.
Right.
Which, like, that's like me saying the Bible is because the Bible is. Like, he's just assuming that his own mental framework is sufficient.
Yes. And what's interesting is what you learn from Scripture teaches how logic actually can be substantiated as an immutable, unchanging source for knowledge, a framework for knowing and extrapolating meaning from things. You have to have the God of Scripture to have logic. And so what's interesting is we're created with the ability to reason, and thus derive meaning from things in our own lives. which presupposes, as we're reading Scripture, we see that God is the very basis is the only basis that we have this ability, or that they're the only basis for logic's existence to begin with. So it's almost I think it's a beautiful a beautiful thing, but I don't see what his point is, other than the fact that he's misunderstanding maybe the Christian position on this.
Yep. And so he continues, logic,
or he or she, I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, he or she. Logic, reason cannot be accounted for as they are means by which we account for other things. It's like trying to measure the first yardstick. You cannot do it because you have anything to compare it to. Base units of measure are, of course, a lot more arbitrary than laws of logic. Why? I mean, like, what gives you the basis to even say that?
Yeah, because I guess saying measuring the first yardstick. Sorry, that's mixing categories. Because he's talking about something in the physical realm, which we set up as a standard. So,
yeah, that's a good point. Like in the atheistic perspective, if all things are material,
yeah,
what is a law of logic? Give it to me.
Yeah. No, you can't hold it.
You know what I mean? Like,
and even the basis of measurement is a outworking of logic. For us as creatures, because we make one observation, we relate it to another observation to another, and that right there is just a basic framework of logic. You don't have to make logical arguments to be logic. Logic is any time you're using rationality to think thoughtfully or to make sense of the world, which would be, again, making coordinating conjunctions in a statement. So, and that goes back to measurement. That's a side point. It's not really. It's just more for fun.
Yeah.
For knowledge to be possible, knowledge is, as far as I can tell, a rationally obtained belief that a person has high confidence is correct. Sure, maybe you can have high confidence, but you don't really know that your confidence has any bearing on what's true. I mean, this kind of backfires, I think, at everything else has been saying.
I didn't even read it yet. What was it?
He was quoting for knowledge to be possible, and he says, knowledge is, as far as I can tell, a rationally obtained belief that a person has high confidence is correct. That is all. Knowing is just stating that you would be very surprised to find out you were wrong. I know my ice cream is in the freezer. I just put it there an hour ago. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't there. Well, and here's the thing is, like, if you are an atheist, all things are happenstance.
You should be surprised it's still there. Or that it's not there. It wouldn't really matter either way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no reason to tell whether or not your logic is happenstance, or your reasoning is happenstance, or your memory is happenstance. There is no reason to trust any of it at all. And again, this goes back to the problem of induction inside the atheistic worldview. Induction is basing your reasoning off of past experience, but to use the law of induction, you have to use the law of induction. And again, this is solved by having a revelational epistemology in which God shows that knowledge is revelational, so that you can base those types of reasonings on.
And to help out, kind of brush that out a little bit, is creation itself. Notice I call it creation and not just nature. It is, we can call it nature, but by that, as a Christian, we mean creation. Is that itself is revelation. Mm-hmm. That itself is revelation, and that's the very reason why you can know something from it, because God has revealed something of himself in his works. The beauty we see in all of the arrangements of nature, of creation, the distinct differences between things, male, female, I mean, all these things are revelatory, and that's why we can, by the reason we've been given, made in the image of God, draw meaning out from these things.
Mm-hmm. Plus the fact that, we believe in a God who is a creator and a designer who makes all things. That's maybe a misquoting of a verse, but makes all things work together. And if you don't, that's a basis to not be able to look at something and say, we should be able to understand how this works and how and why this works. And if you if you believe in a random universe, what would stop you from opening the refrigerator and finding that all your eggs have hatched into dinosaurs? I mean, that's ultimately what evolution. It's this punctuated equilibrium, this helpful monster theory based sort of thinking of well, we just hope that enough time has passed that maybe something will actually happen. That matters.
In fact, that goes.
I love that.
Yeah. I think it's right here. I got this logic textbook here. It's kind of torn up.
Looks like you've used it a little bit.
Yeah, it is a logic book. I can't. It does say it, but they talk about
logical. That's good.
Yes, they talk about the uniformity of nature. It's literally falling apart. I can't.
That's not very uniform.
It's not uniform, but the uniformity of nature is the basis of everyone who doesn't have this revelatory epistemology. They have to just assume nature's going to behave like Jake said, the way it did yesterday, today, or the way it behaves over in Asia, it'll behave over here in the United States. We don't know why, it just is, and this is how we're deriving our meaning and our logic. What's funny about that is, it's just completely subjective, and it has it's where you're, like you're saying, you're playing on a paradigm that doesn't belong in your worldview. And what you'd have to say at the end of the day is, I made a really strong argument, but I don't believe in arguments because I don't know if they exist.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling, but the uniformity of nature is something for our viewers to check out, because it really shows the subjectivity of those who try to use logic outside of a Christian paradigm.
Yeah. Suppressing the truth and unrighteousness.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. So he finishes off by quoting me, for knowledge we possibly have to have an ultimate starting point. He says no such starting point is possible. Then why are we even talking? Like, that kills me. Because if you never have a starting point, you've never even begun to reason. If you're not starting somewhere, there's nowhere to go. You've never arrived.
There's
for no such starting point is possible. How would you know?
He's already made it. There's already assumptions. He's presuppositional. He doesn't realize it yet.
Yeah, no, most atheists are.
You can always ask what is prior to any proposed starting point, except for God, or else throw at it. Does insert starting point from things that are logical because they are, or things that are logical because insert parting for informs. I'm not sure what he's talking about. At which point you can show any source of things is either arbitrary. Things are only logical because they were dictated to be that way, in which case they are not absolute, meaning anything based on them is similarly subject to potential change, or they do not acquire the source you are trying to pin it on. I mean, the account for logic fails. The source that it is irrelevant. It just at the bottom, he doesn't have his reason is completely arbitrary. He doesn't know the basis for his reason to begin with, and so I'm not sure why he's even critiquing in the first place.
No such starting point is possible. You can always ask what is prior to any presupposed starting point.
It's almost like his hearkening to, hey, everybody, why don't we remain in ignorance? Because I don't want you to have any sort of, I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah.
Is he trying to say that, is this kind of going back to another one of his points where he's just pretty much saying that even if you claim a prior starting point, you can claim that point to be anything? Is that what he's getting at? Or
I think he's saying that point could be anything. But again, I'm saying that.
Well, go ahead.
Well, he's already claimed his own starting point. So,
Well, I'm saying he already dealt this is saying the same thing that he said earlier, but it's just like we said. You have as you. I'm trying to understand him first. Go ahead and talk. I want to be sure I get what he's saying. You can show.
Yeah, no, I just I'm a little confused at this last part. I think he does think that you can choose any starting point, or he's criticizing that people that just arbitrarily choose a starting point. But I'm not arbitrarily choosing a starting point.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, and that goes back to that point we made earlier about Scripture revealing a God that actually comports or actually corresponds to the real world, the world we experience.
Yeah.
And so internally, it's consistent. So if I made an appeal to my starting point is going to be the tree next to my house, that is the reason this whole universe began to exist. Well, you could probably real quickly break me down on that by knowing that tree grew out of the ground about 4 years ago or something. But when you look at Christianity in its entirety, it doesn't break down. Particularly when you look at the person of Christ, like you said earlier, is he reveals God to us, and perfectly as he's God with us, and confirms the Old Testament, sends out the authors of the New Testament, and that community. We have this basis based on the one man. I would going back to authority. The one person I do put my trust in, and I would commission everyone that they would do that, is Jesus Christ. And again, he pointed us to the text, and you look at the text, and that God is the only explanation for logic to exist. That's kind of my thoughts there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's good. Sorry, I'm having to walk around my room. Yeah, I think that's it.
Very good.
So run to Christ and live, I think is what it is at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, do you guys have any final thoughts on this review?
I just want to thank Robin Dude for stepping out there and engaging with us, and we appreciate that, and we want to let you know that we may have been severe on the comment and responding, but we really do care about you, and we care about you understanding properly and understanding what it means to think properly and to actually know something, and that you can actually know something, and that you're not just lost in a cosmic accident, and that this is not a cosmic accident, but a cosmic purpose set forward by God in a very orderly and amazing way, that and he cares about you, and that's the good news. And I know that may be laughable, but to some people, because maybe it doesn't make you feel good and make you want something. It may go against what you presently think is right, but there is a better way in Jesus Christ, and all that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think to touch on that, those same 2 points were on my heart, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I totally spaced on that at the end, is to thank that individual who commented, because you did put a lot of time into that, a little bit of time. I don't know if you, but you wrote on enough. You watched the video, you responded from your convictions and from what knowledge you have, and you put forth your sentiments, and you're engaging. Xgarage, engaging the things that we're posting, but with that also, as Jake said and Ethan's saying, Jake said, "Run to Christ," and that's because God has ran to us. God has not only have we rebelled against God and turned away from Him to live in our subjectivity of our own minds, to erect this ideal that we are our own gods and we can define our own existence. With our own little axioms and whatever, that's everything. Even in light of that, God comes after us by taking on humanity to clearly reveal to us who He is, and that is the God of love that would die on a cross in our place, take the justice that we deserve, the wrath that we deserve, and to free us from that condemnation. That God's not willing that any should perish. Go ahead.
And ultimately free us from sin and how it affects the world and causes pain and causes disasters and causes grief. And we know that the ultimate hope is that God will, and Christ will come back and restore original creation where those things do go away. And that's what we look forward to.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, guys. So why don't we go ahead and call it good for then? We'll upload this video to other platforms as well for other people's viewings.
Mm-hmm.
X
Garage. I'm pointing at you guys. Oh yeah, X Garage. Garage. The garage down at the bottom. Are you guys the X or the garage? I don't know.
Oh yeah, I can be the X.
That was ridiculous.
Cool. All right. Well, of course, guys, as always, send us your questions and feedback. We'd love to hear from you, and let us know if there's anything else we can touch on. Have a good one.
Thank you, X Garage.
X Garage.